Jessica stood at the entrance of Westlake High School, her heart beating fast in her chest. The big brick building looked so different from her old school. She pulled her worn-out backpack higher on her shoulder and took a deep breath. This was her fresh start, a chance to be someone new. As she walked through the hallways, Jessica couldn't help but notice how different everyone looked. Girls with perfect hair carried bags that probably cost more than her mom's monthly rent. Boys wore expensive sneakers that Jessica had only seen in magazines. Everyone seemed to glow with confidence and money. "You must be the new student," said the school secretary, handing Jessica her schedule. "Homeroom is down the hall to your right." Jessica nodded and tried to smile, but her stomach was in knots. Back at her old school, she had friends, people who didn't care that her clothes came from discount stores or that she lived in a tiny apartment. But here, everyone screamed rich. In homeroom, she sat quietly in the back. Nobody talked to her. During class introductions, Jessica kept it simple. "I'm Jessica Morgan. I just moved here with my mom." The teacher smiled politely and moved on. Nobody asked questions. Nobody seemed interested. At lunch, Jessica found an empty table and unwrapped the sandwich her mom had made that morning. The cafeteria buzzed with laughter and conversation, but nobody joined her. From where she sat, she could see a group of girls at a table near the middle of the room. They wore cute outfits and designer shoes. Everyone seemed to want to talk to them. "My dad got us tickets to the Taylor Swift concert next month," one girl with glossy blonde hair said. "Front row seats." "That's nothing," another girl laughed. "My parents are taking me to Paris for spring break. We're staying at this amazing hotel with a view of the Eiffel Tower." Jessica looked down at her plain sandwich and felt her cheeks burn. The apartment she shared with her mom had a view of the parking lot. Their idea of a special treat was ordering pizza on Friday nights. Her mom worked 2 jobs just to keep them afloat since the divorce. The next day was no better. Jessica tried smiling at people in the hallway, but they looked through her like she was invisible. In English class, the teacher assigned group projects, and Jessica ended up working alone because nobody picked her. "Don't worry," the teacher said kindly. "You can join Linda and Zoe's group." The 2 girls barely looked at Jessica as she pulled her chair over to their desk. "So I was thinking we could do our presentation on The Great Gatsby," Linda said, completely ignoring Jessica. "Perfect. It's all about wealth and society," Zoe replied. "My family just joined the country club, by the way. My mom says it's important to network with the right people." Jessica sat silently, feeling more invisible by the minute. Friday came, and Jessica had survived her first week at Westlake, though survived was the key word. She hadn't made a single friend. As she stood at her locker, she overheard the same group of popular girls talking about an upcoming pool party at someone's mansion. "My dad's flying in a DJ from Miami," a girl with perfect nails bragged. "And we're getting the pool filled with these special imported flowers that float on the water. It's going to be epic." Jessica walked home slowly that day, kicking rocks along the sidewalk. Their apartment looked even smaller and shabbier than usual. Inside, her mom was napping before her night shift at the diner. Jessica went to her tiny bedroom and looked around. The faded posters on the wall, the small desk from a garage sale, the clothes hanging in her closet that came from thrift stores and discount racks. She opened Instagram on her phone and scrolled through the profiles of her new classmates. Vacation photos in tropical places, birthday parties with expensive gifts, designer clothes and perfect smiles. That night, as Jessica lay in bed, a thought crept into her mind. What if the reason nobody noticed her was because she seemed poor? What if all she needed to fit in was to seem rich too? She stared at the ceiling, turning the idea over in her mind. She didn't have money, but maybe she didn't need real money. Maybe she just needed people to think she had money. By morning, Jessica had made up her mind. She would reinvent herself. Starting Monday, she wouldn't be Jessica from the small apartment with the single mom who struggled to pay bills. She would become someone these rich kids would notice, someone they would want to be friends with, someone they thought was just like them. That weekend, Jessica spent hours in her bedroom planning her new life. She couldn't buy new clothes, but maybe she could make her old ones look better. She dug through her closet and pulled out everything she owned. "What are you doing in there?" her mom called from the kitchen. "Just organizing my stuff," Jessica shouted back. She found an old black purse she'd gotten from a thrift store last year. It was plain, but the shape looked kind of like those designer bags the popular girls carried. Jessica grabbed a gold marker from her school supplies and carefully drew a pattern on it. From far away, it almost looked fancy. Next, she went through her mom's jewelry box and borrowed a gold necklace her grandma had given her mom years ago. It was the only real expensive thing they owned. Sunday night, Jessica stayed up late watching videos about how rich people talked. She practiced in front of her mirror, trying out phrases like, "My father's business takes him all over the world," and "we usually spend summers at our beach house." Monday morning, Jessica got up extra early. She put on her nicest jeans with a plain white top, something she had seen in magazines described as understated luxury. She wore her mom's gold necklace and carried her newly decorated purse. When her mom saw her, she raised her eyebrows. "Special occasion today?" "Just trying to make a good impression," Jessica said, grabbing a piece of toast. "I want to fit in better." At school, Jessica walked differently, head high, shoulders back, like the hallway was a runway and she owned it. She had practiced this walk all weekend. In homeroom, she sat down next to a girl named Amber, one of the popular ones. "Is that the new Bella bag?" Amber asked, eyeing Jessica's purse. Jessica's heart skipped. She had no idea what a Bella bag was. "Oh, this? No, it's a limited edition from my dad's last trip to Milan. They only made 50 of them." Amber's eyes widened slightly. "Your dad goes to Milan." Jessica nodded casually. "He's in investment banking. He's actually in Europe right now closing a big deal." "That's cool," Amber said, looking at Jessica with new interest. "I thought you just moved here." Jessica was ready for this. "We did. We're actually renovating our main house right now. It's taking forever. You know how contractors are." She rolled her eyes like this was a common problem. "So we're in this small place temporarily. My mom hates it." At lunch, Jessica didn't sit alone. Amber waved her over to the popular table. Jessica's hands were sweaty as she set her tray down. "This is Jessica," Amber announced. "Her dad's some big-shot banker in Europe." Everyone looked at her with new eyes. Jessica smiled and sat down, trying to look like she belonged there. "So where did you live before?" a boy named Tyler asked. "Connecticut," Jessica said, picking a place that sounded rich. "But we also have a place in California that we use in the winter." "What part of California?" a girl asked. Jessica's mind raced. "Malibu. Right on the beach." She had seen pictures of Malibu in a magazine. "No way. We stayed at a resort there last summer," the girl said. "Which part of the beach?" Jessica felt panic rising but kept her face calm. "The north end. It's more private. Lots of celebrities have houses near us. We don't really talk about it, though." She quickly changed the subject. "What classes is everyone taking?" After school, Jessica rushed home and went straight to her computer. She created a new Instagram account, deleting her old one that showed pictures of her real life. Then she started researching. For hours, she looked up information about investment banking, houses in Malibu, private schools in Connecticut, luxury brands, and expensive vacation spots. She wrote everything down in a notebook. If she was going to be rich, she needed to know what rich people knew. The next day, Jessica wore the same jeans, but paired them with a different top. She had stayed up late sewing a little designer logo onto the pocket, just big enough to be noticed. When she got to school, Amber and her friends were waiting for her. "We're going to the mall after school. Wanna come?" Amber asked. Jessica froze. The mall meant spending money she didn't have. "I can't today. I have a fitting for an event my family is attending next weekend." She made it sound important. "What kind of event?" someone asked. "A charity gala," Jessica said smoothly. "My dad's company is a major sponsor." They looked impressed. Jessica felt a thrill go through her. They believed her. They wanted to be her friend. Her plan was working. That night, Jessica sat at her small desk and made a list of all the lies she told. She needed to keep her story straight. Next to each lie, she wrote notes to help her remember details. Connecticut house, white, big windows, 5 bedrooms. Dad's name, Robert, works for Goldman investment firm. Malibu house, blue, right on beach, celebrity neighbors. Jessica looked at her list and felt a mix of excitement and worry. How long could she keep this up? But the way people looked at her today, like she mattered, made her push the worry aside. Tomorrow, she would tell them more about her fake rich life, and they would believe every word. 2 weeks into her new life, Jessica was walking on air. Everyone knew her name now. Teachers smiled at her in the hallway. Boys offered to carry her books. Girls invited her to sit with them at lunch. It was like she had stepped into a dream. "Hey Jessica, where do you park your car?" Tyler asked one morning as she walked up to school. Jessica's mind raced. She didn't have a car. She took the bus and then walked the last few blocks so nobody would see her getting off public transportation. "Oh, I don't drive to school," she said with a casual wave of her hand. "Dad insists I have a driver. He drops me off around the corner." She lowered her voice. "It's kind of embarrassing, actually. I keep telling my parents I can drive myself, but they're super protective after what happened to my cousin in a car accident." "What happened to your cousin?" Amber asked, suddenly interested. Jessica hadn't expected a follow-up question. Nothing too serious. Just scared my parents. Anyway, the driver's actually pretty cool. He lets me play my music." That seemed to satisfy them. Jessica made a mental note, no more mentions of fake cousins or relatives. Too easy to get caught in those lies. At lunch, Jessica sat at the center of the popular table, right next to Amber. In just 2 weeks, she had somehow become Amber's best friend. Amber was the queen bee at Westlake High. Her dad owned car dealerships all over the state, and her mom was some kind of famous interior designer who worked for celebrities. "You have to come to my pool party next month," Amber said, showing Jessica pictures of her massive backyard on her phone. "It's going to be epic." "Totally," Jessica nodded, although the idea of a pool party made her nervous. She didn't own a designer swimsuit, and she certainly couldn't afford to buy one. "So what does your mom do?" a girl named Lily asked Jessica. Jessica took a bite of her sandwich to buy time. She hadn't talked much about her mom in her fake stories. "She's mostly focused on charity work now," Jessica said. "But she used to work in fashion. She was a buyer for Nordstrom." This wasn't completely false. Her mom had worked at Nordstrom for a while, just as a cashier, not a buyer. "That's so cool," Lily said. "My mom just shops there all the time." After school, Jessica hurried to catch the bus to the downtown mall. She had applied for a job at a small cafe there, and today was her first day. She needed money if she was going to keep up appearances. The cafe was far enough from school that she was sure no one from Westlake would ever go there. "You're Jessica?" the manager asked when she arrived. "Great, we need help with the afternoon rush. Put this apron on, and I'll show you how to work the register." For the next 4 hours, Jessica made coffee, cleaned tables, and rang up customers. By the end of her shift, her feet hurt and she smelled like coffee grounds, but she had made $42 in tips. She tucked the money into her wallet with a smile. This would help. When she got home, her mom was already there making dinner. "How was school?" her mom asked. "Good," Jessica said. "I made some new friends." "That's great, honey. You should invite them over sometime." Jessica nearly choked on the water she was drinking. Maybe. They're pretty busy with sports and stuff." Her mom looked at her curiously. "You seem different lately. New clothes, new friends. There's not a boy, is there?" "No, Mom," Jessica laughed. "Just trying to fit in." That night, Jessica carefully counted the money she had saved so far. Between her first paycheck from the cafe and tips, she had almost $200. This weekend, she would go to the discount outlet mall 2 towns over. She had seen online that sometimes you could find real designer items there for cheap. At school the next day, Jessica's phone kept dying before she could show pictures of her supposed mansion. This had become her go-to excuse whenever someone asked to see photos of her house or family. I need a new phone," she complained. "This one's battery is totally shot." "Why don't you just ask your dad for the new iPhone?" Tyler asked. "He's weird about stuff like that," Jessica explained. "He thinks it builds character to keep things until they're completely unusable. Old money mentality, you know." Everyone nodded like they understood, though most of their parents bought them new phones every year. At lunch, Jessica was telling a story about meeting a famous actor at a restaurant in New York when her actual phone rang. The screen lit up with Mom and a picture of her mother in her waitress uniform from the diner. Jessica quickly flipped the phone over, but Amber had seen it. "Your mom's a waitress?" she asked, confused. Jessica's heart pounded. "No, that's my aunt," she lied smoothly. "My mom's phone broke, so she's using my aunt's old one. That picture comes up because it's still got my aunt's stuff on it." Amber seemed to accept this explanation, and Jessica quickly changed the subject to their upcoming English test. But inside, she was panicking. That was close, too close. That weekend, Jessica took the bus to the outlet mall and found a second-hand designer store. She spent almost all her money on one authentic designer wallet that had a small scratch on it. The salesperson put it in a fancy shopping bag with tissue paper. On Monday, Jessica made sure everyone saw her pull the wallet out of her backpack. "Is that the new Gucci?" Lily gasped. Jessica nodded. "Early birthday present from my dad. He had it shipped from Italy." That little wallet changed everything. Now, no one questioned her stories about wealth. The proof was right there in the designer logo everyone recognized. Jessica Morgan, the invisible new girl, had disappeared completely. In her place was Jessica Morgan, the rich, popular girl with the international banker dad and the mansion under renovation. And everyone loved her. Jessica was sitting in Amber's huge bedroom, surrounded by shopping bags. Amber had just finished a shopping spree and wanted Jessica's opinion on everything she bought. "This would look amazing on you," Amber said, holding up a blue dress with a price tag that made Jessica's stomach hurt. That was more than her mom made in 2 days at the diner. "Yeah, it's cute," Jessica said with a smile. "I saw something like it in Paris last summer." Amber flopped down on her king-sized bed and looked at Jessica. "You know what? We've been friends for 3 months now, and I've never been to your house. Even if it's just temporary while your mansion is being renovated, I want to see it." Jessica's smile froze on her face. "Oh, it's a total mess right now. The contractors leave dust everywhere." "I don't care about that," Amber insisted. "Let's have a study group at your place next week." Before Jessica could come up with another excuse, Amber's phone buzzed. She checked it and squealed. "Oh my God. Kira's parents are going out of town next weekend, and she's having a pool party." She looked at Jessica with bright eyes. "We have to go." Jessica nodded, relieved by the change of subject. "Sounds fun." "Wait," Amber sat up suddenly. "Spring break is coming up in 3 weeks. We should do something epic." She gasped as an idea hit her. "What if we had a party at your place? Your renovation should be done by then, right?" Jessica felt like the floor was falling out from under her. Actually. Or, oh my God." Amber continued, not even hearing Jessica, "What about your beach house in Malibu? That would be insane. We could all fly out there for the week." Jessica's mind raced frantically. This was bad, really bad. "My beach house is being rented out this season," Jessica said quickly. "And our main house won't be ready until summer. The contractors found, foundation issues." Amber looked disappointed but then brightened again. "Well, we could still do something amazing for spring break. What if we did a pool party here, but like elevated? We could get a DJ, special food." She trailed off, thinking. Jessica saw her chance to steer things in a safer direction. Or, she said slowly, "We could do something really unique, something nobody else would think of." Amber raised her eyebrows, interested. "Like what?" "What if we rented out a space, somewhere really exclusive and cool?" "Like a club?" Amber asked. "Better," Jessica said, warming to her idea. "What about that new luxury hotel downtown? The one with the rooftop pool? We could reserve a private section." Amber's eyes widened. "That would be amazing, but wouldn't it cost a fortune?" Jessica waved her hand dismissively, even as her heart pounded with anxiety. "I have connections," she lied. "My dad's company uses their conference rooms all the time. I bet I could get us a deal." "Oh my God, yes!" Amber jumped up and hugged Jessica. "This will be the party of the year. Everyone will talk about it." On the bus ride home, Jessica felt sick with worry. What had she done? She had no connections at that hotel. She had no way to reserve anything, let alone afford it. But Amber was already texting everyone about the epic hotel pool party that Jessica was organizing for spring break. The next day at school, that's all anyone could talk about. Is it true you're getting us the rooftop at the Grand? Tyler asked as soon as Jessica walked into homeroom. Jessica, my mom wants to know if parents are invited too, another girl said. How many people can come? Someone else called out. Jessica felt like she was drowning. Guys, it's still in the planning stages, she said, trying to sound calm. I'll let you know the details soon. After school, instead of going to the cafe for her shift, Jessica went downtown to the Grand Hotel. Her palms were sweaty as she walked through the fancy revolving doors. The lobby was all marble and glass, with huge flower arrangements and well-dressed people walking briskly across the shiny floor. Jessica smoothed her hair and walked up to the front desk, trying to look like she belonged. Hi, she said to the woman at the desk. I'd like to speak to someone about booking an event. The woman looked her up and down. Do you have an appointment with our events coordinator? No, but I'm afraid Ms. Chen is fully booked today. You can call to make an appointment, or I can give you our events package with pricing information. She handed Jessica a glossy folder. Jessica opened it and nearly gasped at the numbers she saw. The cheapest package started at $5,000. Thank you, Jessica managed to say, closing the folder. She was about to leave when she noticed a young man taking photos in the lobby with a professional camera. An idea began to form. Jessica waited until he seemed to be finished and then approached him. Excuse me, she said. Those photos look amazing. Are you a professional photographer? The man smiled. I'm the hotel's social media manager, just getting some shots for our Instagram. That's so cool, Jessica said. I'm really into social media too. I have a pretty decent following. This wasn't exactly a lie. Her fake rich girl Instagram account had gotten over 1,000 followers in the past months as she posted carefully staged photos that made her look wealthy. The man, whose name tag read Nick, seemed interested. Oh yeah, what's your focus? Lifestyle and travel, mainly, Jessica said. I actually came here today because I'm looking for a venue for a spring break event. All my followers would love this place. Nick's eyes lit up at the mention of exposure. How many followers are we talking about? Jessica took a deep breath. Almost 15,000, she lied, adding a zero to her actual count. And my friends who would attend have big followings too. We're all pretty active in the local social scene. Nick seemed impressed. Let me guess, you were quoted some astronomical price by our events department. Jessica nodded. It's a bit out of my range, unfortunately. Nick leaned in. Look, I might be able to help you out. We're trying to attract a younger crowd to our Sunday pool sessions. If you and your friends would post about your experience here, tagging the hotel of course, I might be able to arrange something with management. A reduced rate for the exposure. Jessica couldn't believe her luck. That would be amazing. Let me see your Instagram, Nick said. Jessica's heart skipped a beat, but she pulled out her phone and showed him her carefully curated profile, full of photos taken in front of expensive stores and in hotel lobbies just like this one. Nick scrolled through, nodding. This looks good. Let me talk to my boss and see what we can do. Leave me your number. Jessica walked out of the hotel feeling like she was floating. Maybe, just maybe, this would work out. If she could get the hotel at a discount in exchange for social media posts, she might be able to afford it with her cafe savings. As she waited for the bus, her phone dinged with a text from Amber. Just told EVER1 about the hotel party. This is going to be legendary. You're officially the coolest girl at Westlake now. Jessica stared at the message, a mix of pride and panic swirling in her chest. She had never been called the coolest girl anywhere before. And now that she had a shot at actually pulling off this party, she wasn't about to let it slip away. Even if it meant spinning even bigger lies. 1 week before spring break, Jessica sat in her bedroom counting her money for the third time. The pile of cash from her cafe job had grown, but it still wasn't enough for what she needed. Nick from the hotel had come through with an amazing offer. They could have the small rooftop pool area for 4 hours on Saturday of spring break for just $1,000, as long as everyone posted about it on social media. It was a huge discount from the normal rate, but still way more than Jessica had saved. She was $400 short, and she had no idea how to get that much money in a week. Her phone buzzed with a text from Amber. Dad's letting me use his credit card for decorations. What color theme should we do? Jessica texted back quickly. Blue and white? Like a Greek island theme. But I fixed it. Amber replied with a string of emojis. Jessica flopped back on her bed with a groan. Everyone was so excited about this party. Amber had ordered special invitations. Tyler was creating a playlist. Lily was planning matching outfits for her and her friends. And Jessica was supposed to be handling the venue. A venue she couldn't afford. Jessica, can I come in? Her mom knocked on the door. Jessica quickly shoved the money under her pillow. Sure, Mom. Her mom opened the door and leaned against the frame. She looked tired after her double shift. I got a call from your school today. Jessica's heart stopped. What about? Your English teacher said you didn't turn in your last 2 assignments. She's concerned. Her mom sat on the edge of the bed. What's going on, Jess? This isn't like you. I've just been busy, Jessica mumbled. With what? Those new friends of yours? Her mom frowned. And speaking of those friends, why haven't I met any of them yet? You're always rushing off somewhere or coming home late. Jessica looked down at her hands. They're just really busy with their own stuff. Her mom's frown deepened. And where did you get that designer wallet I saw in your backpack? That must have cost hundreds. It was on sale, Jessica lied. Super discounted, like 90% off. Her mom didn't look convinced. Jessica, are you in some kind of trouble? You know you can tell me anything, right? For a brief moment, Jessica considered telling her mom everything, the lies, the fake rich persona, the party she couldn't afford. But then she imagined her mom's disappointment, and the thought of going back to being invisible at school made her stomach hurt. Everything's fine, Mom. I promise I'll catch up on my assignments. After her mom left, Jessica pulled out her phone and texted her boss at the cafe. Could I pick up extra shifts this week? I really need the hours. The next day at school, a new student named Damien was introduced to Jessica's math class. He had moved from the wealthy neighborhood where Jessica claimed her family's mansion was being renovated. You live in Oakwood Estates? He asked Jessica during group work. Which street? Jessica's mouth went dry. Maple Drive. Oh, I know that area well. My cousin lives on Maple. Which house is yours? Other students were listening now. Jessica forced a laugh. It's the one with all the construction going on. You can't miss it. White with black shutters. She quickly changed the subject. So, how are you liking Westlake so far? But Damien wasn't done. That's weird. I don't remember seeing any construction on Maple recently. And I was just there last weekend. Jessica felt sweat forming on her forehead. It's toward the end of the street, the really private section. The bell rang, saving her from more questions. As everyone gathered their books, Jessica overheard Damien asking Tyler, so what's the deal with this hotel party everyone's talking about? After school, Jessica went straight to the cafe for her extra shift. Her boss had agreed to let her work additional hours all week. Her feet ached, and she kept messing up orders because she was so tired, but each tip brought her closer to the $1,000 she needed. By Thursday, Jessica was exhausted. She had worked every day after school, and she still had 2 English assignments to make up. Worst of all, Damien seemed suspicious of her stories and kept asking questions about her house and family. Jessica, are you feeling okay? Her English teacher asked after class. You seem distracted lately. I'm fine, Jessica said automatically, just a little tired. As she walked to her next class, Jessica overheard Damien talking to a group of students. And there's no construction on Maple Drive at all, he was saying. I checked with my cousin. He says the only white house with black shutters is the Thompsons, and they've lived there for years. Jessica ducked into the bathroom before anyone could see her. Her hands were shaking as she gripped the sink. It was all falling apart. Damien was going to expose her, and everyone would know she was a liar. Worse, she still didn't have enough money for the hotel. Even with all her extra shifts, she was still $150 short. The hotel needed the payment tomorrow to hold the reservation. During lunch, Jessica couldn't eat. She sat at the popular table, nodding and smiling at the right moments, but her mind was racing with panic. Jessica, Amber said, snapping her fingers. Earth to Jessica. I asked if we're still on for dress shopping this afternoon. Oh, I can't today, Jessica said. I have a family thing. Amber rolled her eyes. Fine. But you have to tell me if the hotel confirmed everything. My dad wants to know. It's all set, Jessica lied. I just need to make the final payment tomorrow. After school, Jessica went back to the cafe for another shift. She was taking a tray of pastries from the kitchen when her boss stopped her. Jessica, I need to talk to you. The serious tone made Jessica's stomach drop. What's wrong? Some of the pastries have been going missing after your shifts, and money from the tip jar was short yesterday. Jessica's face burned with shame. She had been taking leftover pastries home to bring to school events, pretending they were from expensive bakeries, but she had never taken money from the tip jar. I did take some pastries that were going to be thrown out, she admitted, but I swear I didn't take any money. Her boss sighed. The pastries still cost this business money, Jessica, and I can't prove who took the cash, but the timing matches your shifts. She shook her head. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to let you go. Jessica felt like she'd been slapped. Please, I really need this job. I won't take anything else, I promise. I'm sorry, I'll mail your final check. Jessica walked home in a daze. No job meant no final payment for the hotel. No hotel meant no party. No party meant everyone would know she was a fake. And now Damien was already questioning her stories about her house. Everything was crumbling around her. All the lies, all the work to be accepted, it was all about to fall apart. When she got home, her mom was sitting at the kitchen table with Jessica's phone in her hand. Your school called again, her mom said quietly. They said you're falling behind in all your classes, not just English, so I checked your phone while you were gone. She looked up at Jessica with hurt in her eyes. Who are these people you're texting about some hotel party, and why are they calling you the rich girl? Jessica felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. This was it, the moment she had feared for months. Her carefully built world of lies was about to come crashing down. Jessica stood frozen in the kitchen doorway. Her mom was still looking at her, waiting for an explanation, the phone with all her secrets clutched in her hand. It's not what you think, Jessica said weakly. Really? Because what I think is that you've been lying to me for months. Her mom's voice wasn't angry. It was hurt, which was so much worse. These texts talk about a mansion and a beach house in Malibu. And something about your dad being in Europe. She shook her head. Your dad hasn't sent a birthday card in 3 years, let alone bought you a beach house. Jessica sank into a chair at the table, her legs suddenly too weak to hold her. I can explain. Please do, her mom said, crossing her arms. So Jessica told her everything. How nobody at school had noticed her until she pretended to be rich, how the lies had started small but grew bigger, how she'd been working at a cafe to buy one real designer item, and how she now had to throw a party at a hotel she couldn't afford. When she finished, her mom was quiet for a long time. I'm sorry, Jessica whispered, tears streaming down her face. Her mom sighed deeply. Do you know what breaks my heart the most? It's not the lying, though that's bad enough. It's that you felt you had to be someone else to fit in, that you were ashamed of who we are. I wasn't ashamed of you, Jessica protested. But you were ashamed of our life, her mom said quietly. Our apartment, our budget, the fact that I'm a waitress instead of some fancy fashion buyer. Jessica couldn't argue with that. Her mom was right. These people aren't your friends, Jessica. Real friends like you for who you are, not what you have. You don't understand, Jessica said, wiping her tears. School is different now. Everything is about brands and money and vacations. No, I do understand, her mom replied. I was a teenager once too. But this, she held up the phone, this isn't the solution. Jessica stared at the floor. What am I supposed to do now? Everyone's expecting this big party tomorrow. If it doesn't happen, they'll all know I've been lying. Yes, they will, her mom said simply. Actions have consequences, Jessica. That night, Jessica barely slept. She kept checking her phone, hoping for a miracle, but knowing none would come. By morning, she had made a decision she wouldn't go to school. She would say she was sick. Maybe by Monday, she could come up with a new plan. But as she lay in bed pretending to have a fever, her phone exploded with texts from Amber. Where are you? The hotel called and said there's no reservation. What's going on? Tell Annie right now. Jessica turned her phone off and pulled the blanket over her head. It was over. Everything was over. An hour later, her bedroom door opened. Her mom stood there, dressed in her waitress uniform. Get up, she said firmly. We're going to the hotel. Jessica blinked in confusion. What? Why? Because you need to fix this, her mom said. Not the party. That's not happening. But you need to face what you've done. I can't, Jessica whispered. You can, and you will, her mom insisted. I raised you better than this, Jessica Morgan. 45 minutes later, Jessica walked into the Grand Hotel with her mom. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to shove them in her pockets. Nick, the social media manager, was at the front desk talking to Amber and a group of Jessica's school friends. They all turned when Jessica entered. Jessica. Amber rushed over. What's happening? The hotel says there's no reservation in your name, and they never heard of some special deal for social media posts. Nick folded his arms. I checked our records after your friends showed up. We never had any conversation about a reduced rate for your party, and your Instagram follow account is nowhere near what you claimed. I know, Jessica said quietly. I lied. The group fell silent. Jessica could feel everyone staring at her. What do you mean you lied? Amber asked slowly. Jessica took a deep breath. About everything. The hotel deal. My rich dad. The mansion. The beach house. All of it. Her voice trembled, but she kept going. I'm not rich. My mom's a waitress. We live in a small apartment on Elm Street. I was working at a cafe to save money, but I still couldn't afford this party. The shock on their faces made Jessica's stomach twist with shame. Amber looked like she'd been slapped. So all that stuff about your dad's business trips and your houses was made up, Jessica finished for her. None of it was real. Why would you do that? Tyler asked, his face a mix of confusion and disgust. Because when I first came to school, no one even looked at me, Jessica said. But when you all thought I was rich, suddenly everyone wanted to be my friend. A wave of whispers spread through the group. Jessica saw phones coming out, people already texting others with the shocking news. This was exactly what she had feared, public humiliation. You're crazy, one girl muttered. What a freak, someone else whispered. Amber's face had turned hard. So our whole friendship was just a lie. Before Jessica could answer, her mom stepped forward. That's enough, she said firmly. Jessica made a mistake, and she's owning up to it now. That takes courage. Mrs. Morgan, Nick said, his professional demeanor a bit softened. I understand your daughter is in a difficult situation, but the Grand Hotel doesn't appreciate being used in her deception. I understand, Jessica's mom said, and she'll be writing a formal apology letter to the hotel management. Jessica nodded miserably. I'm really sorry. Amber shook her head, tears in her eyes. I trusted you. I told you things I've never told anyone else. She turned to the group. Let's go. Party at my house instead. One by one, they all followed Amber toward the exit. As they walked past, Jessica heard snippets of conversation. Always thought something was off about her. Remember that fake designer bag she carried? Wait till everyone at school hears about this. Jessica wanted the marble floor to open up and swallow her whole. This was worse than she had imagined. The looks of betrayal, the whispers, the phones recording her downfall. By Monday, the entire school would know what a liar she was. As the group reached the doors, one person hesitated. It was Ryan, a quiet boy from Jessica's study group who had always been kind to her but wasn't part of the popular crowd. He looked at Jessica for a moment, then at the group leaving without him, and made a choice that surprised everyone. He walked back toward Jessica. Are you okay? He asked quietly. Jessica blinked back tears. Not really. Ryan nodded. This is pretty brutal. But for what it's worth, I always thought those designer clothes looked uncomfortable anyway. Despite everything, Jessica found herself smiling a little. They were, and the bag was super heavy. Her mom touched her shoulder gently. Let's go home, sweetheart. As they walked out of the hotel, Jessica braced herself for what would come next. School on Monday would be a nightmare. Her lies had fallen apart in the most public, humiliating way possible. But as she got into her mom's old car, with Ryan promising to text her later, Jessica felt something unexpected beneath the shame and embarrassment, a tiny flicker of relief. The lies were over. For the first time in months, she didn't have to pretend anymore. Monday morning came too quickly. Jessica stood at the school entrance, her stomach in knots. She almost turned around and ran back home, but her mum's words echoed in her mind. "You can face this. You're stronger than you think." Taking a deep breath, Jessica pushed open the doors and stepped inside. The hallway went quiet. Heads turned. Whispers followed her like shadows. Someone had made a meme of her confession at the hotel and spread it all over social media. Jessica kept her eyes on the floor as she walked to her locker. "Guess your chauffeur couldn't drop you off today?" A boy called out, making others laugh. Jessica said nothing as she opened her locker. Inside was a photo someone had taped up, her face pasted onto a cartoon of a beggar holding a designer bag. She ripped it down, her cheeks burning. "Don't let them see you cry," she whispered to herself. In homeroom, no one would sit next to her. The empty chairs around her felt like a wall separating her from everyone else. Even the teacher looked at her differently, like she was trying to figure out which parts of Jessica were real. By lunchtime, Jessica couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed her lunch bag and headed for the library, planning to hide between the bookshelves. As she hurried down the hallway, she literally bumped into Amber. "Sorry," Jessica mumbled, stepping back. Amber looked at her coldly. "You know what's funny? I actually miss talking to you. But then I remember that the person I was friends with doesn't even exist." "That's not true," Jessica said quietly. "A lot of it was real." "Like what?" Amber challenged. "I really do love photography. I really did read all those books we talked about. And I really did consider you my best friend." Amber's expression softened slightly. "Well, I guess we'll never know what could have been real friends, will we?" She walked away, leaving Jessica standing alone in the hallway. The library was quiet and cool. Jessica found a table in the back corner and unwrapped her sandwich. As she ate, someone sat down across from her. It was Ryan. "This seat taken?" he asked with a small smile. Jessica shook her head. "Thanks for texting me this weekend." "No problem. The memes are pretty brutal. You holding up okay?" Jessica shrugged. "I deserve it." "Maybe some of it," Ryan agreed. "But not all of it. People are being extra harsh because they feel fooled. Their egos are hurt." "I didn't think of it that way," Jessica said. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Ryan said, "You know, it's kind of impressive how you pulled it off for so long. The research, the details, the quick thinking. You could write a book or something." Jessica almost smiled. "Yeah, How to Lose All Your Friends in One Day by Jessica Morgan. I was thinking more like The Price of Popularity." For the first time in days, Jessica laughed a little. It felt good. After school, Jessica had to stay late to make up a test she'd missed. As she walked toward the exit afterward, she passed the empty art room and noticed someone inside. Ms. Chen, the art teacher. "Jessica, is that you?" Ms. Chen called out. Jessica paused in the doorway. "Yes, Ms. Chen." "Come in for a minute," the teacher said, gesturing to a chair. "I heard about what happened." Jessica grimaced. "Everyone has." "I imagine it's pretty tough right now," Ms. Chen said, arranging paintbrushes in a jar. "But you know, sometimes our biggest mistakes lead to our best discoveries." "I don't think anything good is coming from this," Jessica said. "Everyone hates me." Ms. Chen looked thoughtful. "You know, I was looking at those photos you posted online, the ones where you staged those fancy settings." Jessica's face burned with shame. Those were all fake. Maybe the wealth was fake, but the eye for composition and style was real, Ms. Chen said. "Those photos showed genuine talent, Jessica." Jessica looked up in surprise. "Really? Really? Have you ever considered joining the photography club? Or maybe the fashion design elective I teach next semester? You clearly have an eye for style." For the first time in days, Jessica felt a flicker of hope. "I haven't, but maybe I could." 2 weeks later, Jessica sat in the art room after school, working on a project for the fashion design club she joined. She was showing other students how to transform thrift store clothes into trendy outfits, something she'd gotten very good at during her months of pretending to be rich. "This is amazing," a girl named Zoe said, examining the jacket Jessica had redesigned. Where did you learn to do this? Self-taught, Jessica said with a small smile. When you can't afford designer clothes, you get creative. Midge Chen had encouraged Jessica to use her experience to help others. There are plenty of kids who feel pressure to look like they have money, she'd said. Show them how to express themselves without going broke. The upcycling club was small, but it was growing each week. Jessica posted her creations on a new, honest Instagram account focused on fashion on a budget. She was surprised to find she was gaining followers, real ones this time. After club, Ryan was waiting for her outside. They'd been hanging out a lot lately, studying together and talking about books and movies. It was different from her friendship with Amber, quieter, more real. How's the apology tour going? Ryan asked as they walked home. Jessica had been writing personal notes to everyone she'd lied to. Some people ignored her. Others accepted her apology but kept their distance. A few, like Zoe, were giving her a second chance. Slow but necessary, Jessica said. I saw Amber today in the hallway. She actually nodded at me instead of pretending I don't exist, so, progress, I guess. Baby steps, Ryan agreed. As they walked, Jessica's phone buzzed with a notification. A local fashion blog had featured her upcycled denim jacket, praising its creative vision and affordable approach to style. Look at this, Jessica showed Ryan the post, her face lighting up with genuine excitement. That's awesome, Ryan said. A real accomplishment based on real talent. Jessica smiled. The past month had been the hardest of her life. The humiliation, the loss of friendships, the daily struggle to face people who now saw her as a liar, it had all been painful. But something unexpected had also happened. For the first time since coming to Westlake, Jessica was finding out who she really was and what she was actually good at. You know what's weird? She said as they reached her apartment building. I think I'm happier now than when I was popular. Because it's real, Ryan said simply. Jessica nodded. Yeah, it turns out being myself is a lot less exhausting than being someone else. She looked up at her apartment, the same small place she'd once been ashamed of. Her mom was probably inside, making dinner after her shift at the diner. The life Jessica had tried so hard to hide was the life that had been there for her when everything fell apart. Want to come up? Jessica asked Ryan. My mom's making lasagna. It's not fancy, but it's really good. Sounds perfect, Ryan said with a smile. I like real food anyway. As they headed inside, Jessica thought about how differently things had turned out from what she'd planned. She had wanted to be popular, to be admired. Instead, she'd learned something more valuable, how to be authentic. It wasn't always easy. Some days at school were still hard. But Jessica was no longer invisible. She was becoming known for who she actually was, her real talents, her real personality, her real life. And it turned out that was enough.